Justin Verlander has signed a 2-year deal with the New York Mets. But did the Blue Jays make a huge mistake in not signing the future Hall of Famer? We'll break that down. And Andrew Heaney has been made a formal offer by the Jays. So we'll have that and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside co-host Nick Gosse. And we got a lot to get into today. But first, I want to thank you all for the support. It's been unreal.
Yeah, very unbelievable by you guys. 81% of you who are watching are not subscribed, so make sure you hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed the daily content. But like you said, Peter, we got a lot to get into, so let's just delve right into the first topic. Huge mistake for the Jays. So I think it was around 2 Eastern or earlier than that, a major news bomb drop. The second major one of the offseason. Verlander to Mets, $86 million, 2 years, the vesting option for the third year. Before I show any more screenshots, Peter, what are your initial thoughts on this move for the Mets and how it might affect the Jays?
Well, I'm just wondering. I mean, the Mets did great. They unloaded that Jacob deGrom potential $200 million deal that they would have to give him, and now they're signing a future Hall of Famer for 2 years. They don't have to commit as much to Verlander, and they're basically getting the same amount of production. So it's a great deal for them. I'm just wondering if the Jays actually made a formal offer to Verlander. I mean, I really wanted him here in Toronto, and I would have been ready to pony up even $90 million, $95 million for Verlander on a 2-year deal. And I heard a lot of rumblings that the Jays were interested in giving him more than 2 years. So whether it be 3 or 4, I don't know. There are a few backup plans, but that would have really helped what we're trying to do in 2023.
Yeah, and we'll get into one of the backup plans in a moment there, but I'll pop up a screenshot about from Ben Nicholson Smith saying his read on Justin Verlander and the Blue Jays was this: the Jays pursued him hard last winter, liked him again this winter, were open to signing him to a a high AAV deal, but was always going to be tough, as one non-Blue Jays person predicted. He's going to New York or LA. Turned out to be true. And like you said about a multi-year thing, he followed up that tweet a few minutes ago by basically saying the Jays were in on him for a multi-year deal, but ultimately he chose a 2-year deal. So I don't know. It's a bit disappointing. Maybe I wonder what the multi-year deal was. Maybe 3 years, 130 million, something like that. But I'm surprised he declined a multi-year deal.
Yeah, like I said, I would have done pretty much anything to bring him here. I mean, he showed no signs of slowing down, even though he's going to enter his age 40 season. He's a guy that would have really helped the Blue Jays and solved quite a few problems with still ways to go here in the offseason. So I don't know. It's disappointing, but I kind of saw it coming. I mean, Carlos Baerga, who's really really well renowned around MLB Twitter, you could say, he seems to get it right pretty much every single time he tweets or whenever he says anything for that matter. So he kind of broke Verlander to the Mets yesterday, and it came to fruition today. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but there are a few other options out there. But the Jays, it's looking like they're going to have to go dumpster diving again here in the offseason.
Yeah, well, for starting pitching at the very least, we have a few Blue Jays Twitter reactions from people on Twitter. And we'll pop up the first one. He said, if the Jays were legitimately pursuing Verlander, which turns out they were, as Ben Nicholson Smith said, who wound up getting a $43 million AAV, that gives a decent estimate of the range of their budget. So this is kind of a positive way to put a spin on things here. This is followed up by a Blue Jays dad tweet saying kind of the opposite. Extremely disappointed, but not at all surprised the Blue Jays missed out on Verlander. They had their chance last year and blew it. At least he didn't sign with the Yankees. Him not signing with the Yankees is honestly a pretty good point. That would have been, devastating, but the Yankees aren't going to sign Max Scherzer, but Justin Verlander, sorry. But I don't know. It's very interesting. It's a bit disappointing kind of getting into our second topic, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with the rest of the offseason before we can have a full talk on that. But if we made a competitive offer like 2 years, 90, and he just chose to go to the Mets, then maybe, I'll feel a bit more okay about it.
Yeah, that's a different story. If they were in on him, if they were pursuing him, and what this tells me is that if the Jays didn't overpay and try to outbid the Mets, then there is a budget on this offseason, and they're not really, they don't have the carte blanche to really go all the way and try to spend as much money as they can to bring a World Series to Canada. I mean, they've made it pretty clear. They tried for Verlander. There are still a few other options out there. Carlos Rodon is like the big name left on the free agent market, and a couple others, but let's get into that.
Yeah, let's get into the second topic now, which kind of relates to that. Jays have officially made an offer to Andrew Heaney. This broke a couple hours ago by, once again, Ben Nicholson Smith getting his work in today. But we'll pop up the screenshot here. Andrew Heaney's market is picking up at winter meetings per source. The Blue Jays have made him an offer. The details of the offer have not been revealed, but this was revealed from his article. Basically saying there's no guarantee the Blue Jays get something done, but their interest makes sense at a time when they're actively exploring the starting pitching market. They were involved in Kyle Gibson until the end, but do not appear to be at the forefront of the Chris Bassett talks. So Twitter was kind of going crazy because we were also we were the second team behind the Orioles, obviously attempting to get Kyle Gibson, and now it seems like we've made an offer to Heaney, and it's between I believe the Mets and the Blue Jays as of now. Some rumblings are saying. So, what are your thoughts on Heaney? I will pop up a StatCast in a minute, but as maybe a fourth starter.
Yeah, well, between the names that you just mentioned there, the three names, Andrew Heaney, Chris Bassett, and Kyle Gibson, Andrew Heaney is the one that I want because he's a lefty. The Jays don't have a reliable lefty in their starting rotation right now. So that's the guy that I'm going to try to go for. And if it is between the Mets and the Blue Jays, which all indications are pointing towards yes, then I think the Jays have to be the front runner at this point because the Mets just spent a lot of money, although money's not really an issue for them. They just spent a lot of money on Verlander. Their starting rotation seems to have filled out here. So I think the Jays should really be heavily involved on Heaney, and I think they are. And then the next maybe couple hours, by the time this video drops, we might have some more news for you guys. So who knows? I'd like to see him in a Jays uniform.
Yeah, we're trying to keep up with all the news. It's dropping like crazy, and I'll pop up Heaney's StatCast here. I got this last minute, so we won't have the fancy graphic around it, but you can see his fastball velocity, slider, and changeup. He's basically elite at making hitters strike out and miss, but when he gets hit very, very hard. Now, obviously, Andrew Heaney was not a phenomenal pitcher prior to last year. However, I was looking up a bit about him during the day, and he made a major change to his repertoire in the sense of the Dodgers made him use his slider, I think like way more, like 40% more. And ever since he started doing that, he's turned into a phenomenal pitcher. Kind of similar to Kevin Gausman, how he just mainly is now a fastball splitter you see with the Orioles. So if that's the case, a lefty who can have a dominant arsenal for our starting rotation would be unbelievable.
And one thing that really stands out to me about Andrew Heaney is the control. So if you pop up his baseball savant one more time, Nick, you see the base on ball percentile there, 78th percentile. So just for example, comparing to another lefty on the Jays right now, Yusei Kikuchi is in the 4th percentile. So it's not to bash on Kikuchi, it's just to show you that Andrew Heaney, this guy's a pitcher through and through, and he could really help us out in that 4th, 5th position. But I still think we need to get a top-end arm. This would not hurt our offseason plans whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm fine if this is the second major move. It can happen first, but if we classify it as the second move of the offseason regarding pitching, I'll be happy with it. But if it's our major move, then it might be disappointing. So I don't know if I'd be happy with that. I'll pop up his one thing here that's really crazy is his chase rate. I did not realize he had a 96th percentile chase rate. That is unbelievable. And it really goes to show how much he's turned the season around. And maybe they see something with Pete Walker that they can, improve on even more. But like you said, we might, by the time this video goes up, he might be a Blue Jay. Who knows? It's going to be hard to tell until he signs. But we'll move into the final topic now, which is Trey Turner to the Phillies. Now, this is kind of going to be a major recap of the offseason so far and what's happened today. So I'll let you take over. Phillies got Trey Turner at a monster deal. What are your initial thoughts on that before we touch on a couple of other of the offseason moves?
Yeah, well, before I talk a little bit about Trey Turner here, I just want to mention that Andrew Heaney doesn't throw exceptionally hard, 92, 93, but the Jays are still heavily involved in Kodai Senga, the Japanese phenom, who's 29 years old. So we didn't really touch on that. We might have another video on it in the next couple of days if that comes to fruition. But Trey Turner, this guy has set the market for shortstops on free agency. And 11 years, $300 million. It's a lot of dough, man. That's a lot of dough. So if the Jays were looking to move Bo Bichette to second base, it doesn't seem that they are going to do that. I mean, I haven't seen any reports that are indicating that. But if they were to go after a guy like, let's say, Bogarts or Carlos Correa or even Dansby Swanson for that matter, that's the kind of money that you're going to have to fork out to one of those three guys. So the market has been set, and not just for shortstops, for everyone, for pitchers, for outfielders. I mean, if you want to field a competitive team in 2023, you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, the dominoes are starting to fall, and that's kind of what we said. Once one move starts to happen, tons are going to start to happen, and within hours of the Turner move happening, there's rumors now other moves have been made, and or ever since the Verlander one, sorry, the Turner one happened after, but it's been unbelievable. 11 years, $300 million for a shortstop who relies on speed and is an average defender is a questionable take for me. I'm happy the Jays didn't offer him that contract. He'll be getting paid till he's 40. And I love Trey Turner, but I just don't know how well he's going to be a phenomenal player, but I don't know how long that contract's going to be considered good. If the Phillies win a World Series within the first, couple or few years of the contract, then it'll be fine. But I don't know. I'm not too high on the how much money and how long the term was for that contract.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. At least we're getting that Nationals reunion in Philly there with Bryce Harper and Trey Turner. So it's going to be fun to watch. Your brother's a Mets fan, as you said, so you'll get to see a lot of NL East battles between those two, and it'll be fun to monitor what happens in the off season here in the next couple days. Winter meetings are approaching, so as you said, the dominoes are going to continue to fall, and we're going to be real busy here on Jays Digest.
Yeah, there's tons of news coming. Jays, we expect the Jays to make a move over the next couple of days. We're not too panicked yet. Hopefully, no more of the crazy big names starting. Keep an eye on Kodai Senga, like you said. I would not be surprised if him and Heaney are Blue Jays, especially Heaney. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And Ben Nicholson-Smith is talking about him a lot for someone who has inside sources. So maybe he knows something that he just can't tell anyone yet, so he's making articles about. But we'll keep you up to date on that and much more. And we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.
Thanks.